Why does California produce more serial killers than any other state in America? But here's the question nobody asked that day. How did it get this bad? How did one state, one stretch of coastline from San Diego to San Francisco become the most prolific factory of serial killers in American history? Tonight, we're opening 10 files, 10 names that changed the way California and America thinks about evil. Case number 1, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Los Angeles, June 1984. The summer starts with a heat wave that feels like a physical weight. The air is thick, the smog is purple. People are sleeping with their windows open because air conditioning is expensive and electricity is rationed. The city is vulnerable. On June 28, 1984, a 79-year-old woman named Jenny Vinkow is found dead in her apartment in Glassell Park. Her throat has been slashed. The window was open. The police call it a burglary gone wrong. They're wrong. This is the first official kill of the Night Stalker, but it won't be recognized as such for another year. By the summer of 1985, the body count is rising, but here's the problem. Nobody knows they're connected. The crimes are happening in different cities, different counties, different police jurisdictions. A home invasion in the San Gabriel Valley, a murder in San Francisco, an attack in Orange County. The evidence is fragmenting across California's massive geography. Richard Ramirez understood something that most criminals don't. California is too big to police effectively. The Los Angeles Police Department doesn't share information with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department doesn't communicate with San Francisco PD. And Ramirez used the California highway system like a scalpel, cutting across jurisdictional lines every time he killed. What was the Avia sneaker breakthrough? In criminal investigations, you need a signature, something that ties the crimes together. For months, the police had nothing. Then, a forensic investigator noticed something, a shoe print, the same shoe print at multiple crime scenes across Southern California. It was an Avia aerobic sneaker, size 11.5. Only one batch of this specific model was ever sold in California. The police started working backward. They contacted every retailer. They built a list of buyers. The Avia print became the first physical link between crimes separated by hundreds of miles. It proved Ramirez was one man, not multiple killers. But Ramirez wasn't just using geography, he was using psychology. What was Ramirez's satanic signature really about? Ramirez didn't just break into homes, he performed rituals. He forced his victims to swear to Satan. He drew pentagrams on walls, on bodies, on mirrors. He gouged inverted crosses into flesh. The media called him a devil worshiper. The public believed he was possessed. Churches across California held prayer vigils. People bought crosses and hung them above their doors. But forensic profilers saw something else. They called it terror enhancement. By adding a metaphysical layer to his crimes, Ramirez wasn't just attacking people physically, he was attacking their sense of reality. He wanted them to believe they were being hunted by something more than human, something unstoppable. Was it real devotion, or was it the ultimate psychological weapon? It was a weapon. Ramirez used Satanism to increase the cognitive load on his victims and the public. The more afraid people were, the more mistakes they made. Fear became his shield. By late August 1985, the police finally had a break. A fingerprint, left on a car he'd stolen. They ran it through the system. They got a name, Ricardo Leyva Ramirez. They got a mugshot. On August 30th, 1985, the police held a press conference. They released Ramirez's face to every newspaper and TV station in California. The next day, August 31st, Ramirez walked into a convenience store in East Los Angeles. He saw his own face on the front page of La Opinion. He ran. The people in the store recognized him. They chased him. He tried to carjack a woman. She screamed. A group of men working on a car nearby heard her. They grabbed wrenches and pipes. They chased him through the streets. This is where the myth changes. The Night Stalker, the man who terrorized an entire state for over a year, was caught by a mob, not by SWAT, not by detectives, by ordinary people who had had enough. When the LAPD arrived, Ramirez was on the ground, bleeding, surrounded by a crowd of people, kicking him, hitting him, screaming at him in Spanish and English. The officers didn't arrest him. They saved him from being beaten to death. Ramirez was only caught when the community decided to hunt back. Geography protected him until the people stopped waiting for the system. In the courtroom, Ramirez didn't act like a defendant. He acted like a rock star. He had groupies in the front row, women who wrote him love letters, women who wanted to marry him. He flashed the pentagram he'd carved into his palm at the cameras. He smirked at the jury. He flirted with the bailiffs. When the judge sentenced him to 19 death sentences, Ramirez leaned into the microphone. He said, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland. Hail Satan." The courtroom erupted. The families of the victims screamed. The guards restrained him. Ramirez smiled the entire time. He spent 23 years on death row at San Quentin. He never faced execution. In 2013, he died of natural causes at the age of 53, complications from B-cell lymphoma. He died in a hospital bed, a ward of the state he tried to burn down. But Richard Ramirez changed California forever. He's the reason people in Los Angeles started locking their doors in the 1980s. He's the reason home security systems became standard. He's the reason an entire generation of Californians grew up afraid of the dark. And here's the disturbing part. While Ramirez was hunting in Los Angeles, another predator was operating 400 miles north, a man who didn't need Satanism or pentagrams, a man who used his intellect instead. Richard Ramirez used chaos and fear, but our next individual used precision and intelligence, and that made him infinitely more dangerous.
Case number 2. Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer. Santa Cruz, April 1973. A giant walks into a police station. He's 6'9". He weighs 300 pounds. He's holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a payphone receipt in the other. He sits down at the front desk and says calmly, politely, "I'd like to report a murder. Actually, several murders. I'm the co-ed killer. You've been looking for me." The officer on duty laughs. He thinks it's a prank. The giant's name is Edmund Kemper. He's a regular at the station. He hangs out with the cops. He buys them beer after their shifts. He talks about forensic procedure and criminal psychology. He's one of them. He's Ed, Big Ed. It takes 3 hours before they believe him. This is Edmund Kemper. IQ of 145, a man who killed his grandparents at age 15 and spent 5 years in a psychiatric hospital where he learned how to fake sanity so convincingly that a panel of psychiatrists declared him cured and released him back into society on his 21st birthday. They handed him back to the one person who had fueled his rage since childhood, his mother, Clarnell. Between his release in 1969 and his arrest in 1973, Edmund Kemper would go on to kill 8 people, 6 young women, his mother, and his mother's best friend. But to understand why he killed, you have to go back to 1964. Why did Kemper kill his grandparents as a teenager? North Fork, California, August 27, 1964. Edmund Kemper is 15 years old. He's living with his grandparents on a remote ranch.
His mother sent him there because she was afraid of him. She forced him to sleep in the basement. She told him he was a monster. That August day, Kemper's grandmother is sitting at the kitchen table, working on a children's book she's writing. Kemper walks up behind her. He shoots her in the head with a .22 rifle. When his grandfather comes home, he shoots him too. Then he sits down and waits. When the police arrive, they ask him why he did it. Kemper says, "I just wanted to see what it felt like to kill Grandma." Kemper killed out of curiosity. He treated murder as an experiment. He wanted to know if he could do it, and he could. Kemper was sent to Atascadero State Hospital, a maximum security psychiatric facility for the criminally insane. Most patients never leave, but Kemper was different. He was brilliant. He befriended the psychiatrists. He helped them administer psychological tests to other patients. He memorized every test. He learned the right answers. He learned how to perform sanity. By the time he was 21, the doctors were convinced he was no longer a threat. They recommended his release. The state agreed. On his 21st birthday in 1969, Edmund Kemper walked out of Atascadero Psychiatric Hospital a free man. They handed him back to his mother. It was the state's greatest mistake. What was Kemper's relationship with his mother like? Clarnell Strandberg was an alcoholic. She worked at UC Santa Cruz. She was cruel. She belittled Kemper constantly. She told him he was too big, too ugly, too stupid. She forced him to sleep in the basement because she was afraid he would assault his sisters. She treated him like a monster before he ever became one. Kemper later said, "I hated her. Every woman I killed was my mother. I was just practicing." Kemper's mother was his ultimate target. Every murder he committed was a rehearsal for the one he truly wanted. Between May 1972 and February 1973, Kemper killed 6 young women. He picked up hitchhikers near UC Santa Cruz, young college students looking for a ride. Kemper was massive, but his voice was soft. He was polite. He had a Department of Transportation badge clipped to his visor. He looked like someone you could trust. He looked safe. Once they were in his car, there was no escape. Kemper would drive them to remote areas in the Santa Cruz Mountains. He would kill them. He would dismember them. He would keep parts. He would photograph them. He would bring the remains back to his apartment, the apartment he shared with his mother, and he would store them there. Did Kemper's mother know what he was doing? Kemper kept the severed head of one of his victims in his mother's home. He buried another victim's head in his mother's garden, facing toward the house. He said she always wanted people to look up to her. His mother never noticed, or if she did, she never said anything. Kemper's mother was willfully blind. She saw what she wanted to see, and what she wanted to see was a son who wasn't a killer. Easter weekend, 1973, Kemper decides the rehearsal is over. He walks into his mother's bedroom while she's sleeping. He kills her with a hammer. He decapitates her. He uses her severed head as a dartboard. He screams at it. He finally gets to say everything he's wanted to say for 28 years. Then he calls his mother's best friend, Sarah Hallett. He invites her over. When she arrives, he kills her too. He says he did it to give his mother company. Then Edmund Kemper gets in his car and drives. He drives all the way to Pueblo, Colorado. He stops at a payphone. He calls the Santa Cruz Police Department. He tells them who he is. He tells them what he's done. He gives them his location. Then he waits. At first, the police don't believe him. Big Ed, the guy who buys us beer? They think it's a prank. They think it's a drunk making a bad joke. Kemper has to call back 4 more times before they finally send a patrol car. He sits in that payphone booth for 3 hours, waiting to be arrested. When the officers arrive, Kemper doesn't resist. He puts his hands up. He gets in the car. He's calm. He's relieved. He says, "It's over." Kemper became useful because he turned himself in and spent decades helping the FBI understand serial killers. In the interrogation room, Kemper doesn't need to be coerced. He doesn't need a lawyer. He gives a technical manual of his crimes. He speaks about death with the precision of a surgeon. He describes the moment of death with clinical detachment. He provides details so accurate that the police are able to close every cold case in Santa Cruz County in a single afternoon. Kemper was sentenced to 8 life terms. During sentencing, he asked the judge for the death penalty. He said, "I don't deserve to live." The judge gave him life instead. Since 1973, Edmund Kemper has been incarcerated at the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. He's been a model inmate. He's never caused trouble. He's never tried to escape. He spent the past 50 years helping. In the late 1970s, FBI agents John Douglas and Robert Ressler interviewed Kemper as part of the Bureau's Criminal Personality Research Project. Kemper became one of the foundational subjects for the FBI's serial killer profiling program. He helped them understand how predators think, how they select victims, how they avoid detection. Kemper also narrates audiobooks for the blind. He's recorded thousands of hours of material. He's been called the best narrator in the program. He's 76 years old now. He's still in prison. He's eligible for parole, but he's never applied. He says he doesn't want to leave. He says prison is where he belongs. Edmund Kemper is the most studied serial killer in American history. He's been interviewed more than any other individual in the California archive, and he's still teaching the FBI how minds like his work. He's proof that intelligence doesn't make you less dangerous, it makes you more effective. Edmund Kemper used intellect to deconstruct his victims, but our next individual didn't need an IQ of 145. He used a prophecy, and he used it to turn a group of middle-class runaways into a death squad.
Case number 3, Charles Manson, the architect of Helter Skelter. Hollywood, August 1969. The summer of love is dying. The Haight-Ashbury dream is collapsing. The counterculture is fracturing. And in the canyons of Los Angeles, a man named Charles Manson is building an army. Not a military army, a psychological one. Young women and men who came to California looking for meaning, they found him instead. They called him Charlie. They called him Jesus. They called him God. Manson wanted to be a rock star. That's what most people don't understand. Before the murders, before the cult, before the apocalyptic prophecies, Charles Manson was just a failed musician with a guitar and a grudge. In 1967, Manson was released from federal prison. He was 32 years old. He'd spent more than half his life behind bars. He moved to San Francisco during the peak of the counterculture movement. He grew his hair long. He played guitar on street corners. He preached about love and freedom. He seemed harmless. But Manson was studying. He was watching. He was learning how the new generation thought. He realized something crucial. The runaways and dropouts flooding into California weren't looking for freedom. They were looking for structure. They were looking for someone to tell them what to do. They were looking for a father. Manson moved to Los Angeles in 1968. He befriended Dennis Wilson, the drummer for the Beach Boys. Wilson let Manson and his followers live in his mansion. Manson recorded demos. He networked with producers. He believed he was on the verge of stardom, but Hollywood rejected him. Trinner producer Terry Melcher listened to Manson's music and said it was amateurish. Manson was humiliated. In criminal psychology, we call this narcissistic mortification.
When the system told Manson he wasn't special, something inside him broke. What happened after Manson was rejected by Hollywood? Instead of accepting failure, Manson decided to create a new system, a system where he was God. He moved his followers, about 25 people at this point, to Spahn Ranch, an abandoned movie set in the desert. It had been used for westerns in the 1950s. Now it was just rotting wood and rusted cars. But it was isolated, and isolation was what Manson needed. Manson used isolation to reprogram his followers. Away from society, he became their only source of reality. At Spahn Ranch, Manson began the process of deconstructing his followers. He used sleep deprivation, he used LSD, he used sex, he used violence. He created a state of constant emergency. He told them the world was ending. He told them a race war was coming. He called it Helter Skelter. Did Manson actually believe in Helter Skelter? Manson claimed he heard a prophecy in the Beatles' White Album. He said the song Helter Skelter was a coded message about a coming race war. He said black Americans would rise up and slaughter white America. He said his family would hide in a secret city in Death Valley and emerge as the rulers of the new world. It sounds insane, and it was. But here's the key. Manson didn't need to believe it. He just needed them to believe it. Helter Skelter wasn't a prophecy. It was a tool. It was a narrative that justified violence. It was a way to make his followers feel like they were part of something bigger than themselves. Helter Skelter was a psychological weapon. Manson used it to increase dependency and justify murder. It was never about belief. It was about control. By the summer of 1969, Manson was frustrated. The race war wasn't happening. Nobody was starting it. So Manson decided to start it himself. He told his followers they needed to commit murders that would be blamed on black Americans. They needed to ignite the chaos. August 8, 1969, Manson gathers 4 of his followers, Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. He gives them a simple instruction: go to the house where Terry Melcher used to live. Do something witchy. Manson doesn't go with them. He stays at the ranch. This is crucial. Manson believes because he doesn't pull the trigger, he's not guilty. He's the architect. He's the prophet, but he's not the executioner. The followers drive to 10050 Cielo Drive. Terry Melcher doesn't live there anymore. The house is now rented by actress Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski. Polanski is in Europe filming a movie. Sharon Tate is home. She's 8 months pregnant. What happens next is one of the most infamous massacres in American history. Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel enter the house. They kill 5 people: Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, and Stephen Parent. Sharon Tate begs for the life of her unborn child. Susan Atkins stabs her 16 times. Before they leave, Susan Atkins writes the word pig on the front door in Sharon Tate's blood. The next night, August 9th, Manson decides to go with them. They drive to the home of Lino and Rosemarie LaBianca, a supermarket executive, and his wife. Manson enters the house first. He ties Lino and Rosemarie up, then he leaves. He sends Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten inside. He tells them to finish the job. They stab Lino LaBianca 12 times. They stab Rosemarie 41 times. They carve the word war in Lino's stomach. They write Helter Skelter and Death to Pigs on the walls in blood. Manson misspells Helter Skelter. Even in his moment of twisted triumph, he makes a mistake. Manson turned ordinary people into killers by isolating them, programming them, and giving them a narrative bigger than themselves. He's proof that the architect is more dangerous than the soldier. The investigation was chaotic. The police didn't connect the Tate and LaBianca murders at first. It wasn't until October 1969 that Susan Atkins, arrested for an unrelated crime, confessed to a cellmate. The cellmate went to the police. The archive cracked open. In December 1969, the police raided Spahn Ranch. They arrested Charles Manson and his followers. The trial began in 1970. It was a circus. Manson didn't try to win. He tried to destroy the concept of justice. He carved an X into his forehead. He told reporters, "I've X'd myself out of your world." His followers did the same. They shaved their heads. They sang in the hallways outside the courtroom. They held hands. They smiled. During the trial, Manson tried to rush the judge with a pencil. He was restrained. He screamed, "Someone should cut your head off." The jury deliberated for 9 days. They found Manson and his followers guilty. Manson was sentenced to death. But in 1972, California temporarily abolished the death penalty. Manson's sentence was commuted to life. Charles Manson spent 46 years in prison. He gave hundreds of interviews. He became a cultural icon. His face appeared on T-shirts, album covers, posters. He became a symbol, a meme, a joke. But here's what people forget. Manson's crimes ended the summer of love. They shattered the illusion of the counterculture. They proved that not everyone who preached peace actually believed it. They brought about a new era of fear in California, an era of locked doors and distrust of strangers, an era that never ended. Charles Manson died of natural causes in November 2017. He was 83 years old. He died in a hospital bed in Bakersfield, California. He never showed remorse. He never admitted guilt. He spent his final years giving bizarre interviews where he spoke in riddles and blamed society for his crimes. He said, "I am what you made me. I am a reflection of you." He was wrong. Charles Manson was a reflection of himself, a man who couldn't handle rejection, a man who wanted to be famous so badly that he decided if he couldn't be loved, he'd be feared, and he succeeded. Charles Manson never killed anyone himself, but he's remembered as one of the most dangerous men in American history. That's the power of the architect. That's the power of the narrative. Charles Manson used a cult, but our next individual didn't need followers. He used a badge, and that made him invisible for 40 years.
Case 4. Joseph James DeAngelo, the Golden State Killer. Sacramento, June 1976. A shadow starts moving through the suburbs. He doesn't break in like a thief. He doesn't smash windows or kick down doors. He unlocks them, because he's already been inside, days earlier, sometimes weeks earlier. He's been in your house while you were at work. He's unlocked your windows. He's disabled your alarms. He's hidden shoelaces in your bedroom, shoelaces he'll use later to tie you up. By the time you wake up, he's already won. This is the East Area Rapist. Later, he'll be called the original Night Stalker. Eventually, he'll be known as the Golden State Killer. But for 40 years, he's just a ghost, a description, a composite sketch, a nightmare that parents in Northern California tell their children about to make them lock the doors. Here's what nobody knew. The ghost was a cop. Joseph James DeAngelo was born in Bath, New York in 1945. He served in the Navy during the Vietnam War. He came back to California in the early 1970s. He got married. He joined the Exeter Police Department in 1973. He was a good cop. He was detail-oriented. He followed procedure. He was promoted. In 1976, he transferred to the Auburn Police Department. And that's when the attacks started. How did DeAngelo prepare for his attacks? DeAngelo was a master of preparation. He didn't just pick a house at random. He studied entire neighborhoods. He would ride his bike through suburban streets during the day,
memorizing fences, dogs, escape routes. He would break into homes while the residents were at work. He would unlock windows. He would disable phones. He would leave shoelaces hidden under pillows or in closets. When he finally struck, sometimes weeks later, it was a calculated invasion. He would wake couples by shining a high-intensity police flashlight into their eyes, a tactic used by cops to disorient suspects. He would separate the couple. He would tie the man up and place dishes on his back. He would tell him, "If I hear those dishes rattle, I'll kill everyone in the house." Then he would take the woman into another room and he would attack. DeAngelo's preparation was military grade. He treated every attack like a tactical operation. He was a soldier, a cop, a predator who used his training to hunt civilians. Between 1976 and 1979, the East Area Rapist committed over 50 attacks in Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, and Davis. The police had no leads. They had descriptions, a white male, medium build, late 20s, but they had no name. They had no DNA. They had no fingerprints. The East Area Rapist wore gloves. He wore a mask. He was careful. But then, in 1979, something changed. DeAngelo was caught shoplifting a hammer and a can of dog repellent from a hardware store in Auburn. The hammer was for breaking windows. The dog repellent was for silencing pets during his attacks. These were his tools, and he got caught stealing them. The Auburn Police Department fired him, not for murder, not for rape, for shoplifting. What happened after DeAngelo was fired? DeAngelo moved south. He moved to Southern California. He got a job as a mechanic. He bought a house in Citrus Heights, a quiet suburb near Sacramento. He got remarried. He had children. He lived a normal life. To his neighbors, he was just a grumpy old man who yelled at kids who walked on his lawn. But at night, he was hunting. DeAngelo didn't stop. He evolved. He became more lethal. He started killing. Between 1976 and 1986, the original Night Stalker killed 13 people across Southern California: Goleta, Dana Point, Irvine, Ventura. The attacks were brutal. Couples were tied up, tortured, and murdered in their own homes. The police had DNA from the crime scenes, but they had no database to compare it to. DNA profiling was in its infancy. The technology existed, but the infrastructure didn't. Then, in 1986, the attacks stopped. The Golden State Killer vanished. Investigators assumed he was dead, or in prison, or he'd moved to another state. The case went cold. The files were boxed up. The victims' families waited. Decades passed. In 2001, DNA technology advanced enough to link the East Area Rapist crimes in Northern California to the original Night Stalker murders in Southern California. They were the same person. One man, 50 attacks, 13 murders across the entire state of California. But they still didn't have a name. DeAngelo was caught using familial DNA. Investigators uploaded his crime scene DNA to a public ancestry database, found his relatives, and built a family tree that led directly to him. In 2018, a cold case investigator named Paul Holes decided to try something radical. He took the DNA from the crime scenes and uploaded it to GE Match, a public genealogy website. The site is used by people trying to find lost relatives. Holes wasn't looking for DeAngelo. He was looking for DeAngelo's family. The DNA didn't match anyone directly, but it showed partial matches to several people: third cousins, fourth cousins. Holes built a family tree. He worked backwards. He eliminated branches. He narrowed the list. After months of work, one name remained: Joseph James DeAngelo. The police started surveillance. They followed him. They watched his house. They waited.
On April 18, 2018, DeAngelo threw away a tissue in a public trash can. An officer retrieved it. The DNA on that tissue was a perfect match to the Golden State Killer. On April 24, 2018, police raided DeAngelo's home in Citrus Heights. He was 72 years old. He was in his garage, working on his motorcycle. He looked confused. He looked small. He looked like someone's grandfather. They arrested him. They read him his rights. He didn't say a word. In the interrogation room, DeAngelo tried to play the role of a frail old man. He whispered to the walls. He pretended to be confused. He spoke in a high-pitched, shaky voice. He said he didn't remember. He said he was too old. He blamed a second personality named Jerry. He said, "Jerry made me do it." But the detectives saw through it. They'd studied his crimes for decades. They knew he was disciplined, careful, methodical. They knew the confused old man act was just another mask. In June 2020, Joseph James DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 13 murders and numerous other charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the sentencing hearing, the court held 3 full days of victim impact statements. Over 50 survivors and family members spoke. They told DeAngelo what he'd done to them. They told him how he'd destroyed their lives. DeAngelo sat in a wheelchair, staring ahead. He showed no emotion, no remorse, no reaction. He looked like a statue. At the end of the hearing, the judge asked DeAngelo if he had anything to say. DeAngelo spoke. His voice was strong, clear, not the frail whisper from the interrogation room. He said, "I've listened to all your statements, each one of them, and I'm truly sorry to everyone I've hurt." It was the first and only time he apologized, and it felt empty, hollow, because after 40 years, after 50 attacks, after 13 murders, sorry doesn't mean anything. Joseph James DeAngelo is currently incarcerated at California State Prison in Corcoran. He's 79 years old. He'll die in prison. And when he dies, the Golden State Killer case will finally close. But here's the legacy. DeAngelo is the reason California and America takes familial DNA seriously now. He's the reason genealogy websites updated their privacy policies. He's proof that no matter how long you hide, the archive of your DNA is a witness that never dies. We're almost at the halfway point. 4 cases down, 6 to go. If you've ever felt the fear of a noise in your house at night, you understand why these stories matter. These aren't just names in a file. These are the people who taught California to lock its doors. Let's keep going. Joseph James DeAngelo used a badge, but our next individual didn't need authority. He used Hollywood glamour, and he used it while the police were actively searching for him.
Case number 5, Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. Hollywood, September 13th, 1978. A man walks onto the set of the dating game. He's bachelor number 1. He's wearing a velvet suit. His hair is perfectly styled. He's charming. He's funny. He's confident. When the bachelorette asks him a question, he leans back and delivers his answer with a slow, deliberate smirk. The audience laughs. The cameras love him. His name is Rodney Alcala, and at this exact moment, the police in Orange County are looking for him in connection with the murder of a 12-year-old girl named Robin Sumso. But nobody on the set knows that because nobody checked. Rodney Alcala wins the date. The bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw, chooses him. The crowd cheers. Rodney smiles. He's just won a televised competition. He's a celebrity now. Millions of people just watched him. He's untouchable.
Backstage, Cheryl Bradshaw talks to the producers. She says, "I don't want to go on this date. There's something wrong with him. He's creepy." The producers try to convince her. They tell her it'll be fun. They tell her it's just dinner. She refuses. Her gut feeling saved her life. Who was Rodney Alcala before the dating game? Rodney Alcala was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1943. His family moved to Los Angeles when he was a child. He was smart, IQ of 135. He joined the Army in 1961. He was honorably discharged in 1964 after what the military described as a mental breakdown. In 1968, Alcala was arrested for the kidnapping and sexual assault of an 8-year-old girl named Dahlia Shapiro. A witness saw him lure the girl into his car. The witness followed them to Alcala's apartment and called the police. When the officers arrived, they found Dahlia unconscious. She'd been raped and beaten with a steel bar. Alcala had fled. Alcala was added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list. He was caught 2 years later. He was teaching at a summer camp for children in New Hampshire under a fake name. He was extradited back to California. He was tried. He was convicted. He was sentenced to prison. But in 1974, he was paroled. Why? Because Dahlia Shapiro's parents didn't want her to testify again. Without her testimony, the state couldn't retry him on the original charges, so they let him go. Alcala was a convicted child predator who was released because the system failed to protect the victim. After his release, Alcala enrolled at UCLA. He studied film under Roman Polanski. He was brilliant. He was charming. He graduated with honors. He got a job as a professional photographer. He used photography as a tool. How did Alcala use his camera as a weapon? Alcala would approach young women on the beaches of Southern California or the streets of West Hollywood. He told them he was a fashion photographer. He told them he was working for a major magazine. He offered them a portfolio session, free of charge. All they had to do was come with him to a private location. This is what we call professional masking. By framing his predatory interest as a legitimate opportunity, he bypassed the natural threat detection of his victims. They saw a professional photographer. They saw a chance to be a model. They didn't see the trap. Alcala's camera was his weapon of entrapment. It gave him access. It gave him trust. It gave him control. In June 1979, 12-year-old Robin Samso was riding her bike to ballet class in Huntington Beach. A man approached her. He said he was a photographer. He asked her if he could take a picture. Her friend was with her. The friend said no. The man left. Robin continued to ballet class. She never arrived. Robin's body was found 12 days later in the San Gabriel Mountains. She'd been murdered. The police had a description of the photographer. They had a composite sketch. They showed it on the news. A woman recognized the man. She said, "That's Rodney Alcala. He just won the dating game." The police arrested Alcala in July 1979. When they searched his storage locker in Seattle, they found the archive. Over 1,000 photographs of women and children. Some were posing, some were unconscious, some looked terrified. Alcala appeared on national television because of a systemic failure. The show didn't run a background check. The media validated him while he was actively hunting. He's proof that fame and evil can coexist. Alcala's trial began in 1980. He was convicted of Robin Samso's murder. He was sentenced to death, but the conviction was overturned on appeal. He was tried again in 1986, convicted again, sentenced to death again. That conviction was also overturned. In 2010, Alcala was tried for a third time. This time, prosecutors included DNA evidence linking him to 4 other murders in Los Angeles. Alcala was convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death. During the trial, Alcala represented himself. He questioned witnesses, he cross-examined detectives, and then he did something truly bizarre. He took the stand and questioned himself. He spoke in 2 different voices. He asked Rodney Alcala questions, then answered as Rodney Alcala. He turned the courtroom into a performance, a theater. He treated the jury like an audience. The jury wasn't fooled. They saw a man so in love with his own image that he couldn't even admit to being the one in the chair. In 2010, the Huntington Beach Police Department did something unprecedented. They released 180 of the photographs found in Alcala's storage locker. They posted them online. They asked the public, "Do you know these women?" Some of the women came forward. They said they'd posed for Alcala in the 1970s. They didn't know he was a killer. They thought he was just a photographer. But some of the women in those photos were never identified. They remain Jane Does. They remain part of Alcala's archive forever. Rodney Alcala died in July 2021. He was 77 years old. He died in a hospital near Corcoran State Prison. He'd been on death row for 41 years. He never faced execution. He died of natural causes. Investigators estimate Alcala may have killed as many as 130 women. The number is so wide because of the photographs, because of the unidentified faces, because of the gaps in the archive. Rodney Alcala used Hollywood as camouflage. He used a camera as a weapon, and he used the system's failures to hunt for decades. He's proof that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like Bachelor number 1. Rodney Alcala used a camera, but our next individual used a scalpel, and he may have committed the most famous unsolved murder in American history.
Case 6. George Hodel, the Doctor of Darkness. Los Angeles, January 15, 1947. A woman is walking with her 3-year-old daughter through a vacant lot in Lamert Park. She sees something in the grass. At first, she thinks it's a mannequin, a department store dummy that someone threw away. But as she gets closer, she realizes it's not plastic. It's a body, a woman's body, cut in half. The woman screams. She grabs her daughter and runs. She finds a house. She calls the police. Within an hour, the lot is swarming with detectives, forensic photographers, and reporters. Within days, the case becomes the most famous unsolved murder in American history. The victim's name is Elizabeth Short. The newspapers call her the Black Dahlia. She was 22 years old. She came to Los Angeles to be an actress. She wanted to be a star. Instead, she became a corpse. The autopsy reveals the precision of the crime. Elizabeth Short was bisected between the 2nd and 3rd lumbar vertebrae, a perfect cut, the kind of cut that requires anatomical knowledge, the kind of cut performed by someone who understands human anatomy, a surgeon, a doctor, a medical professional. Her face was carved into a Glasgow smile, cuts from the corners of her mouth to her ears. Her body was drained of blood. It was scrubbed clean. There were no fluids, no evidence. The killer didn't just murder Elizabeth Short. He staged her. He posed her. He turned her into art. For decades, the LAPD investigated hundreds of suspects. They interviewed doctors, drifters, reporters, soldiers. They had over 22 confessions, all fake. The case went cold. The Black Dahlia became a legend, a myth, an unsolved mystery that Hollywood turned into movies, books, and TV shows. But the archive points to one man, George Hodel. Who was George Hodel?
George Hodel was born in 1907. He was a child prodigy. He could play classical piano at age 6. He had an IQ of 186, higher than Einstein's. By the time he was a teenager, he was performing classical concerts for Los Angeles high society. He was brilliant, he was charming, he was untouchable. Hodel went to medical school. He became a surgeon. By the 1940s, he was the head of the Los Angeles County Social Hygiene Clinic, a publicly funded clinic that treated venereal diseases. He was the doctor of the stars. He was friends with artists, filmmakers, and photographers. He was obsessed with surrealism. He was a patron of the arts. He was also a sexual predator. In 1949, Hodel was accused of molesting his 14-year-old daughter, Tamar. The case went to trial. Hodel hired the best lawyers in Los Angeles. He was acquitted. The jury didn't believe Tamar. They believed George Hodel because he was a doctor, because he was educated, because he was powerful. George Hodel was protected by his status. The system believed him over his own daughter. What connected Hodel to the Black Dahlia? By 1950, the LAPD's Gangster Squad, a special unit tasked with investigating organized crime and high-profile murders, had narrowed their Black Dahlia investigation to George Hodel. They had informants who said Hodel knew Elizabeth Short. They had witnesses who placed them together, but they didn't have physical evidence. They didn't have a weapon. They didn't have a confession. So they bugged his house. Hodel lived in the Stockton house, a Mayan-inspired fortress in the Hollywood Hills, designed by architect Lloyd Wright. It looks like a temple. It has a central courtyard. The entrance is a cavernous mouth. It's dark, it's oppressive. It's the perfect place to hide secrets. For weeks, the police listened to recordings from inside the Stockton house. They heard Hodel talking to friends, to women, to himself. And then on February 15, 1950, they heard this. Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. Hodel confessed on tape, but the LAPD didn't have enough evidence to arrest him. Without a weapon or a witness, the recording was inadmissible. Hodel's secretary had died weeks earlier. Officially, it was an overdose, but investigators suspected foul play. They suspected Hodel killed her to silence her, but they couldn't prove it. In October 1950, George Hodel fled the United States. He moved to the Philippines. He lived there for the next 40 years. He remarried multiple times. He had more children. He lived a comfortable life. He died in 1999 at age 91. He was never charged with any crime. But the story doesn't end there. In 1999, Hodel's son, Steve Hodel, inherited his father's belongings. Steve was a retired LAPD homicide detective. He'd spent 30 years solving murders. He knew how investigations worked. He knew how killers thought. When Steve went through his father's belongings, he found a photo album. Inside were 2 photographs of a young woman who looked identical to Elizabeth Short. Same hair, same smile, same face. The photos were taken before her death. Steve recognized the background. It was the Stockton house. Steve spent the next decade investigating his own father. He wrote a book called Black Dahlia Avenger. In it, he laid out the evidence, the photos, the recordings, the timeline, the motive. He made the case that George Hodel was the Black Dahlia killer, and he made it convincingly. George Hodel was never charged. He fled the country and lived another 40 years. The archive suggests he got away with the crime of the century. His own son believes he did it, but the case remains officially unsolved. George Hodel used his status as a doctor to hide in plain sight. He used his friendship with artists to justify his obsession with the grotesque. He used his intellect to stay one step ahead of the law, and he used California's obsession with fame and glamour to disappear. He's proof that in California, if you're powerful enough, You can get away with anything. George Hodel used surgical precision, but our next individual used kindness, and that's what made her so dangerous.
Case 7. Dorothea Puente, the Death House Landlady. How did an elderly woman kill at least 7 people and bury them in her garden? Sacramento, November 1988. A social worker named Judy Moyes is worried. One of her clients, a 52-year-old developmentally disabled man named Bert Montoya, hasn't checked in with her in weeks. Bert lives at a boarding house on F Street, a blue Victorian house run by a woman named Dorothea Puente. Judy calls the house. Dorothea says Bert went to Mexico. Judy doesn't believe her. On November 11, 1988, Judy brings the Sacramento Police Department to 1426 F Street. Detective John Cabrera knocks on the door. Dorothea answers. She's 79 years old. She's wearing a floral dress and large spectacles. She looks like someone's grandmother. She's polite. She's cooperative. She offers the detectives coffee. She says they're welcome to search the property. Detective Cabrera goes to the backyard. The soil looks disturbed. He asks Dorothea about it. She says she's been planting a new garden. He asks if he can dig. She says yes. She even offers him a shovel. Cabrera starts digging. Within an hour, he finds a human leg bone, then another, then a skull. By the end of the day, they've uncovered 7 bodies, all buried in shallow graves in Dorothea Puente's backyard. Who was Dorothea Puente? Dorothea Puente was born Dorothea Helen Gray in Redlands, California in 1929. Her childhood was chaotic. Her parents were abusive alcoholics. She was placed in an orphanage. She was sexually assaulted by a staff member. She ran away at age 16. She got married. She got divorced. She married again. She divorced again. By the time she was 40, she'd been married 4 times. In the 1970s, Dorothea started running boarding houses in Sacramento. She targeted vulnerable people, the elderly, the mentally ill, the alcoholics, the people society had forgotten. She advertised her services to social workers. She said she provided a safe, clean environment for people who had nowhere else to go. Social workers believed her. They sent her their toughest cases. But Dorothea wasn't a saint. She was a predator. She convinced her tenants to sign over their Social Security checks. She became their authorized payee. She controlled their money. And once she had control, the tenant became a liability. Dorothea targeted people the system had abandoned. She knew nobody would come looking for them. How did Dorothea kill her victims? Dorothea didn't use a gun or a knife. She used drugs. She would spike her famous home-cooked meals, tamales, stews, casseroles, with massive doses of sleeping pills, Dalmane, florazepam, prescription sedatives. Once her victims were unconscious, she would suffocate them. Then she would keep the bodies in a death room upstairs. She used lime and air fresheners to mask the smell. She hired other tenants, men she paid in free rent, to dig trenches in the backyard. She told them she was installing a sprinkler system. She forced her victims to dig their own graves. Dorothea used a combination of drugs, manipulation, and manual labor to hide her crimes. She turned her boarding house into a death factory. When the police started excavating Dorothea's backyard, she stood on the porch. She watched them. She was calm. She was polite. She even offered them lemonade. And then she asked Detective Cabrera if she could take a walk. She said the stress of the crowd was making her anxious. She said she needed a cup of coffee. She said she'd be right back. Detective Cabrera said yes, because she looked harmless, because she was 79 years old, because nobody thought a grandmother could be a serial killer. Dorothea walked down the street. She got on a bus. She didn't go to a coffee shop. She went to the Greyhound station. She bought a ticket to Los Angeles. For 4 days, Dorothea Puente was the most wanted person in America.
While police were still digging up bodies in her backyard, she was sitting in a bar in Los Angeles, drinking vodka and watching herself on the news. Dorothea was caught in Los Angeles on November 17, 1988. A bartender recognized her. She didn't resist arrest. She went quietly. In the interrogation room, Dorothea played the victim. She clutched a tissue. She spoke in a soft, trembling voice. She said, "I used to be a very good person. They died of natural causes. I just didn't want to lose the house. I was trying to help them." This is cognitive deflection. She admitted to cashing their checks, a financial crime, to distract from the murders. She used her age and frailty as a legal shield. She believed the jury would see a sad old woman instead of a killer. The trial began in 1993. Dorothea was charged with 9 murders. The prosecution argued she killed for profit. The defense argued the tenants died of natural causes and Dorothea just hid the bodies to keep collecting their checks. The jury deadlocked on 6 counts, but they convicted her of 3: Dorothea Montalvo, Leona Carpenter, and Dorothy Miller. Dorothea Puente was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She was transferred to Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. She spent the next 18 years in prison. She gave interviews. She maintained her innocence. She even published a cookbook called Cooking with a Serial Killer. Dorothea Puente died in prison on March 27, 2011. She was 82 years old. She died of natural causes. She never confessed. She never showed remorse. She died believing she was the victim. Dorothea Puente is proof that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like a grandmother in a floral dress offering you homemade tamales. Sometimes it smiles and offers you coffee while the bodies are rotting in the backyard. Dorothea Puente used kindness as a weapon, but our next individual used alleyways and the cover of darkness, and he used the system's apathy to hunt for 25 years.
Case 8. Lonnie Franklin Jr., the Grim Sleeper. How did a man hunt women in South Los Angeles for 25 years and only get caught because of a pizza crust? South Los Angeles, July 1985. A woman's body is found in an alleyway off Western Avenue. She's been shot. She's been dumped like trash. Literally, she was found next to a dumpster. The police file a report. They investigate, but the case goes cold. Nobody comes forward. Nobody saw anything. The woman was struggling with addiction. She was part of what society calls the invisible. Over the next 3 years, more bodies appear. All women, all found in alleyways, all shot with the same .25 caliber weapon, all discarded. The LAPD's 77th Street Division starts calling them NHI cases, no humans involved. This is the systemic devaluation of human life, because the victims were poor, because they were black, because they were struggling with addiction. The police didn't prioritize the cases. The media didn't cover them. Society didn't care. And a man named Lonnie Franklin Jr. was watching and learning and hunting. Who was Lonnie Franklin Jr.? Lonnie Franklin Jr. was born in Los Angeles in 1952. He served in the Army. He came back to LA in the mid-1970s. He got a job as a trash collector for the city. Later, he became a mechanic. He bought a house on 81st Street in South LA. He had a wife. He had children. He was friendly with his neighbors. He helped people fix their cars. He was just Lonnie, a regular guy. But at night, Lonnie was hunting. Lonnie Franklin Jr. was the perfect camouflage. He blended into his community. He was helpful. He was friendly. Nobody suspected him. Between 1985 and 1988, Lonnie Franklin Jr. killed at least 10 women. He would pick them up in his orange Ford Pinto. He would offer them money. He would drive them to secluded areas. He would shoot them.
He would dump their bodies in alleyways. He would go home. He would go to work. He would help his neighbors fix their cars, and nobody knew. In November 1988, a woman named Henrietta Washington survived. She got into Franklin's car. He drove her to an alley. He shot her. He sexually assaulted her. He pushed her out of the car. He left her for dead. But Henrietta didn't die. She survived. She gave the police a description: a black man in his late 30s, driving an orange Ford Pinto. The police investigated, but they didn't find him. The case went cold. And then, in 1988, the murders stopped. For 14 years, there were no more bodies, no more victims. The police assumed the killer was dead, or in prison, or he'd moved. They were wrong. Did Franklin really sleep for 14 years? In 2002, the bodies started appearing again. Same locations, same .25 caliber weapon, same disposal method. The grim sleeper had woken up. But the truth is, he probably never stopped. He just got better at hiding, or he changed his method, or the police stopped looking. The grim sleeper narrative is a myth created by investigators who missed cases. Franklin likely never stopped killing. He just adapted. Franklin was caught in 2010 using familial DNA. Police found a partial match to his son in the California offender database. They followed him, they watched him, they waited. On July 7, 2010, Franklin went to a pizza restaurant. He ate, he threw his plate away. An undercover officer retrieved the pizza crust. The DNA on that crust was a perfect match to 10 murders and 1 attempted murder. On July 7, 2010, police arrested Lonnie Franklin Jr. in his home on 81st Street. When they searched his house, they found the archive. Over 1,000 Polaroids and photographs of women. Some were smiling, some were posed, some were unconscious, some looked terrified. In 2010, the LAPD did something unprecedented. They released 180 of those photos to the public. They asked, "Do you know these women?" Some came forward. They said they'd posed for Franklin in the 1980s. They didn't know he was a killer. They thought he was just a guy with a camera. But many of the women in those photos were never identified. They remain Jane Does. They remained part of Franklin's archive. Lonnie Franklin Jr.'s trial began in 2016. He was convicted of 10 murders and 1 attempted murder. He was sentenced to death, but like most in the California archive, he never faced execution. He died in prison on March 28, 2020. He was 67 years old. Natural causes. Lonnie Franklin Jr. hunted for 25 years because society didn't care about his victims. He used the system's apathy as camouflage. He's proof that when society decides certain lives don't matter, predators take notice and they hunt accordingly. 8 cases down, 2 to go. We've covered 50 years of California history. We've seen how predators use geography, authority, glamour, status, kindness, and apathy to hunt. But the next 2 cases are different. One is the most famous unsolved case in American history. The other is the most recent. Let's finish the archive. Lonnie Franklin Jr. used alleyways, but our next individual used ciphers, letters, and the media itself. He turned Northern California into a puzzle, and 50 years later, we still don't know his real name.
Case number 9, the Zodiac Killer. Who was the Zodiac Killer, and why is he still unsolved? Northern California, December 20th, 1968. A young couple, David Phelan and Betty Lou Jensen, are parked on a desolate road near Vallejo. It's their first date. They're 17 and 16 years old. They're listening to the radio. They're talking. They're laughing. It's a normal California night. And then a car pulls up beside them. A man gets out. He walks toward their car.
David tries to drive away. The man shoots through the window. He shoots David in the head. Betty Lou tries to run. She makes it about 30 feet before the man shoots her 5 times in the back. She dies in the dirt. David dies in the driver's seat. The man gets back in his car. He drives away. He doesn't take anything. He doesn't say anything. He just kills and leaves. This is the first confirmed murder of the Zodiac killer, but it won't be the last. How did the Zodiac announce himself? On August 1st, 1969, 3 newspapers in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, receive identical letters. The letters are typed. They include specific details about the Phelan Jensen murders that only the killer would know. Each letter includes 1/3 of a 408-symbol cipher. The letter demands the ciphers be printed on the front page. If they're not, the killer says he'll go on a kill rampage. The newspapers comply. They print the ciphers. Within a week, a school teacher and his wife crack the code. It reads, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." The message is signed with a symbol, a circle with a crosshair through it, the Zodiac symbol. The Zodiac used the media to amplify his terror. He didn't just kill, he published. He forced the public to participate in his game. Between December 1968 and October 1969, the Zodiac commits 5 confirmed murders and 2 attempted murders. He shoots couples in cars. He stabs picnickers at a lake. He shoots a taxi driver in San Francisco. He mails letters to the press after each attack. He includes evidence, pieces of the victim's clothing, to prove the letters are real. But the most terrifying attack happens on September 27, 1969, at Lake Berryessa. What happened at Lake Berryessa? Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard are having a picnic by the lake. It's a beautiful day. They're alone. They're safe, or so they think. A man appears. He's wearing a black executioner's hood with a white crosshair on the chest. He's carrying a gun. He ties Brian and Cecilia up with plastic clothesline. He tells them he's an escaped convict. He tells them he just wants their car. And then he pulls out a knife. He stabs Brian 6 times. He stabs Cecilia 10 times. Brian survives. Cecilia dies 2 days later in the hospital. Before the man leaves, he walks to their car. He writes on the door, Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69, September 27th, 69, 6:30, by knife. He's documenting his own crimes. He's publishing them on the property of his victims. Lake Berryessa was the Zodiac's most theatrical attack. He wore a costume. He documented the scene. He turned murder into performance art. On October 11, 1969, the Zodiac kills taxi driver Paul Stein in San Francisco. He shoots him in the back of the head. He takes a piece of Stein's bloody shirt as a trophy. He mails it to the San Francisco Chronicle with a letter that says, "School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning." The threat sends the Bay Area into a panic. Police escort school buses. Parents drive their children to school. The Zodiac has successfully terrorized an entire region without ever showing his face. But he made a mistake. 3 teenagers saw him leave the crime scene. They gave police a description: white male, stocky build, glasses, crew cut, mid-30s. The police create a composite sketch. It's the most famous sketch in American history, and it looks exactly like one man, Arthur Lee Allen. Who was Arthur Lee Allen? Arthur Lee Allen was a former elementary school teacher in Vallejo. He was fired in 1968 for inappropriate behavior with students. He was a convicted sex offender. He lived in a trailer filled with guns, knives, and maps of the Bay Area. He wore a Zodiac brand watch, the exact brand that inspired the killer's name.
In 1991, a friend of Arthur Lee Allen's went to the police. He said Allen had talked about wanting to kill couples at random. He said Allen wanted to call himself Zodiac. He said Allen wanted to attach a flashlight to a gun to shoot people at night. These were all details of the Zodiac murders, details that hadn't been made public. The police interviewed Allen multiple times. They searched his trailer. They found weapons. They found diagrams, but they didn't find physical evidence linking him to the crimes. No DNA, no fingerprints, no murder weapon. In 1991, police searched Allen's home again. They found a Zodiac watch. They found maps with annotations, but still no physical evidence. Allen maintained his innocence. He said, "I'm not the Zodiac, but if I was, I'd be better at it." Arthur Lee Allen died on August 26, 1992. He was 58 years old. He died of a heart attack. Just days after his death, investigators were preparing to arrest him. A surviving victim had identified his voice on a recording, but Allen was dead. The case went cold again. Arthur Lee Allen was the primary suspect. He had the watch, the motive, the knowledge, but he died before he could be charged. The Zodiac case remains officially unsolved. The Zodiac was never caught because he understood how to exploit jurisdictional gaps, media attention, and public fear. He remains unsolved because physical evidence linking suspects to the crimes was never found. In 2020, amateur code breakers finally solved the Z340 cipher. It read, "I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me." The Zodiac case changed American law enforcement. It led to the creation of multi-jurisdictional task forces. It led to the development of psychological profiling. It proved that a killer who uses the media as a weapon is almost impossible to stop. To this day, the Zodiac remains one of the most famous unsolved cases in history. There are documentaries, movies, books, podcasts. He's been studied by criminologists, profilers, and amateur detectives for 50 years, and we still don't know his real name. But we know one thing. He was from California. He used California, and California never caught him. The Zodiac was a ghost from the 1960s, but our final individual is a ghost from 2022. He's proof that the California archive is still being written. Right now.
Case number 10. Wesley Brownlee, the Modern Phantom.
How is a serial killer still operating in California in 2022? Stockton, California, July 2022. A man is walking through a park at 2 a.m. He's alone. He's minding his own business. A figure approaches him from the shadows. The figure is dressed in all black. The figure raises a gun. The figure shoots. The man dies. The figure disappears. This is the first kill of the Stockton serial killer, but it won't be the last. Between July and October 2022, 5 men are executed in Stockton, all shot, all alone, all in the early morning hours, all in parks or empty parking lots. The police have no leads. They have surveillance footage, but the killer is always wearing a mask, always dressed in black, always moving through the blind spots of the city. This is modern predation. This is what happens when a killer learns from the archive. No letters, no ciphers, no theatrics, just execution. Who is Wesley Brownlee? Wesley Brownlee was born in 1977. He moved to Stockton in the early 2000s. He worked as a truck driver. He had a wife. He had children. He lived in a quiet neighborhood. To his coworkers, he was reliable. To his neighbors, he was quiet. Nobody suspected him. But at night, Wesley Brownlee was hunting. Brownlee is the modern phantom. No backstory, no motive, just a man who decided to kill. On October 15, 2022, the Stockton Police Department gets a break.
They've been tracking a vehicle, a dark sedan, seen near multiple crime scenes. At 2 a.m., they spot the vehicle. They follow it. The driver is moving slowly through a residential area. He's looking for something. He's hunting. The police pull the vehicle over. The driver is Wesley Brownlee. He's dressed in all black. He's wearing a mask around his neck. He's carrying a semi-automatic handgun. The ballistics match all 5 murders. Brownlee is arrested on the spot. In the interrogation room, Brownlee says nothing. He stares at the wall. He doesn't ask for a lawyer. He doesn't deny anything. He just sits there, silent, empty. The police ask him, why? Why did you kill those men? Brownlee doesn't answer. He blinks. He stares. He says nothing. Wesley Brownlee was caught while actively hunting. He represents the modern evolution of the serial killer. No motive, no manifesto, no theatrics, just violence. In early 2024, Wesley Brownlee pled guilty to 3 counts of murder as part of a plea deal. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During sentencing, the judge asked him if he had anything to say. Brownlee said no. Wesley Brownlee is currently incarcerated in California. He's 47 years old. He'll die in prison. And when he dies, the archive will close on another name, another face, another individual who used California to hunt. He's proof that the production line hasn't stopped. He's proof that in 2025, there are still predators moving through California, learning, adapting, hunting.
California produces more serial killers than any other state in America because of geography, anonymity, legal fragmentation, and cultural mythology. The state is too big, too fragmented, and too focused on reinvention to stop predators from hiding in simple sight. 10 cases, 10 individuals, 60 years of California history, and one constant, California. So here's the answer to the question we opened with 90 minutes ago. Why does California produce more serial killers than any other state in America? It's the geography. California is massive, 163,696 square miles, 40 million people, multiple climates, urban centers separated by hundreds of miles. The police jurisdictions don't communicate effectively. A killer can cross a county line and reset the investigation. Richard Ramirez used the highways. Joseph DeAngelo used the jurisdictional gaps. The system is too big to protect everyone. It's the anonymity. California is a state of transplants. Everyone here is from somewhere else. Nobody asks too many questions. Charles Manson moved to Los Angeles and built a cult in the desert. Rodney Alcala posed as a photographer and nobody checked his background. Dorothea Puente ran a boarding house for the forgotten. Lonnie Franklin Jr. was just a mechanic who helped his neighbors. They all used California's anonymity to disappear in simple sight. And it's the mythology of reinvention. California is the place you go to become someone new. The gold rush, Hollywood, the tech boom. The promise is always the same. Come to California and reinvent yourself. But that promise doesn't just attract dreamers, it attracts predators. People who want to erase their past. People who want to start over. People who want to hunt without a trail. And it's the legal fragmentation. California has the largest prison population in the United States, but it also has some of the slowest execution timelines. Richard Ramirez was sentenced to death in 1989. He died of natural causes in 2013. Rodney Alcala was sentenced to death 3 times. He died of natural causes in 2021. The death penalty exists in California, but it doesn't function. Predators know this. They know they can kill, get caught, and still live for decades. California is a factory, and the production line hasn't stopped.
Right now, in 2025, there are individuals moving through California who haven't been caught yet. They're learning from the archive. They're watching the documentaries. They're reading the books. They're studying the mistakes. They're evolving. The question isn't whether California will produce another Richard Ramirez or another Golden State Killer. The question is, when? We've spent 90 minutes in the California archive. We've learned 10 names. But here's what I want you to remember. We also learned the names of their victims. David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Sharon Tate, Elizabeth Short, Robin Samso, Jenny Vincow, Marianne Pesquet, Bert Montoya, the women in Lonnie Franklin's Polaroids who still don't have names. The archive remembers the killers because they demanded to be remembered. But we have a choice. We can choose which names we carry forward. If this archive mattered to you, if you spent 90 minutes learning about the people who changed California forever, then you understand why these stories need to be told. Not for shock, not for entertainment, but for memory, for pattern recognition, for the understanding that evil isn't random, it's systematic, it's predictable, and it's preventable. Subscribe to this channel, not because I'm asking you to, but because the act of remembering is the only weapon we have against the individuals who want to be forgotten. The California archive is closed, but the light is always fading somewhere. Sleep well, if you can.